Hi, these are the top 10 films of 1964. When I say top 10, I mean my personal favourite films of 1964. In at number 10, Blood and Black Lace. One of the earliest and certainly one of the most influential giallo films. The film takes place in and around a fashion house in Rome, where one by one models are violently murdered by a mystery masked assailant. Blood and Black Lace is sort of the template for the body count slasher picture. The director, Maria Brava, wanted to make a sort of different whodunit, and instead of focusing on the detective work, he wants to focus on the murders and the violence and the sex. It's an incredibly stylish looking film, and I love the opening credits with the actors posing with mannequins. The film is so influential, and its legacy can still be seen today in films such as Peter Strickland's In Fabric. In at number 9, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Jacques Demy's film, where every single line is sung, is both beautiful to look at and listen to. It tells a very simple story that starts with Catherine Deneuve working in an umbrella shop and her first love who has to go off and serve in the army. It's also an early example of a cinematic universe, where a character from Demy's earlier film Lola pops up and has quite a major role in the film. 1964 was a great year for musicals in general. My Fair Lady has a wonderful central performance from Audrey Hepburn and some amazing songs. But it is 3 hours long, and the ending where Rex Harrison says, "Get me my fucking shoes," or something like that, you just feel like Eliza's gonna have the most miserable life ahead of her.
Where the devil are my slippers?
There was also A Hard Day's Night, which features the excellent songs of the Beatles. I love the Beatles, but their cinematic characters and presence of these sort of zany, stupid kids really annoyed me.
Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt.
In the mid-1960s, the Beatles wanted Stanley Kubrick to direct them in an adaptation of The Lord of the Rings. I love Kubrick and I love the Beatles, but can you just imagine? I mean, of course Ringo would be playing Frodo. "Oh, I've got a ring in my pocket. When I put it on, I turn invisible. Don't put the ring on, Ringo, or we'll be looking through you. I'm looking through you. Where did you go?" And then running around the Shire. In at number 8, Top Cappy. Jules Dessin directs this incredibly entertaining heist film. A crack team of thieves plans to break into Top Cappy Palace in Istanbul and steal an emerald-encrusted dagger. Along with them, though, is a bumbling small-time crook who is working undercover with the Turkish police. Peter Ustinov plays this crook and is brilliantly funny, and he actually won an Oscar for his performance. It's a really fun movie, and the details of the heist are really interesting, and actually this would go on to be the main inspiration for the Mission Impossible TV show and then later the movies, even down to the elaborate wire work. I wish Top Cappy had become a franchise, where by the 5th and 6th film we've got Peter Ustinov flying a helicopter through a canyon or hanging onto the side of a plane. In at number 7, Goldfinger. This third James Bond film has so many iconic moments and characters. A marvellous villain, an incredibly memorable henchman, Bond girls galore, Burt Kwok, weaponised Aston Martins, and a huge showdown at Fort Knox. Although it's weird in this movie where James Bond is completely useless. He causes the death of 2 sisters, gets caught for most of the film, and in the end it's Pussy Galore who alerts the CIA and saves the day. Even when it comes to disarming a nuclear bomb, Bond is incompetent. But yeah, Goldfinger, great fun. In at number 6, Pale Flower. This wonderful Japanese noir is incredibly stylish. We follow a Yakuza, fresh out of prison, who gets caught in a destructive relationship with a femme fatale who gambles because it's the only way she can feel anything. It's a really cool film. It looks amazing and has this unsettling score by Toru Takemitsu. There are some really unusual touches here and there, and this feels like it could have easily fit into the classic noir period of the 1940s and 50s, but it also foreshadows the violence and intensity of the films of the 70s. It's a great film. In at number 5, Zulu. This epic war film really is something. showing the Battle of Rorke's Drift, where 150 British soldiers held off 4,000 Zulu warriors. The location photography in South Africa is beautiful, and the long battle sequence is wonderfully executed. Michael Caine doesn't give his usual bloody performance. We've got to shoot those bloody Zulus. He's actually quite posh in it.
Well, Chin Chin, do carry on with your mud pies.
The Zulu army was portrayed mostly by descendants of the actual warriors themselves, and the actor who played the chief was in fact the current chief of the Zulu nation and was playing his great-grandfather. It's a good movie. In at number 4, A Fistful of Dollars. This was the first spaghetti western by Sergio Leone, the master of the genre. Clint Eastwood stars as the man with no name. Well, he's called Joe in this. And he arrives in a small town in Mexico which has been ravaged by 2 rival gangs, and Joe plays the 2 gangs against each other, and it's exceptionally exciting. It's an unofficial remake of Kurosawa's excellent Yojimbo, and while borrowing heavily from the film, it has a unique tone of its own due to Leone's distinct visual style and Ennio Morricone's outstanding score. Leone made his westerns operatic with these wonderful landscapes and intense close-ups. It does have that thing though, where the voices do not match up quite to what the man is saying. In at number 3, Woman in the Dunes. This is a terrifying film. It's so unsettling and creepy and disturbing, and you'll never look at sand in the same way again. We follow a school teacher who has gone to these dunes to study insects, when all of a sudden he is trapped in a house at the bottom of a pit with a woman who has seemingly spent her entire life there. It's so claustrophobic. The sand is ever present, and unless they send stand up to the village elders, they will be engulfed and buried alive. The score is so ahead of its time, with Toru Takemitsu yet again creating a wonderful sense of dread, and it reminds me of the score of The Shining, or even much later, Under the Skin. This is a wonderful example of the Japanese New Wave, where Japanese filmmakers and studios were really experimenting. The films become more violent and sexual, and deal with issues and themes in a really interesting fashion. Woman in the Dunes has so much to say about life and relationships, and not a lot of it is positive, but wow, what a movie, completely mesmerising. In number 2, Mary Poppins, Disney's live-action film about a magical nanny who comes and helps a dysfunctional family, is absolutely marvellous. Great musical numbers, brilliant special effects, and great imagination up on screen. I've never been the biggest fan of Julie Andrews. She always reminds me of sort of a teacher who seems nice but is actually really strict and gives too much homework. But she is perfect as Mary Poppins. And yes, Dick Van Dyke's accent is terrible, but somehow over the years it's become kind of charming in its own way. It's a really fun family film. And in at number 1, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Wow. Trust Stanley Kubrick to take a serious novel on mutual assured self-destruction leading to a nuclear holocaust and make it a comedy. Apparently Kubrick wanted to write a serious drama, but as he wrote the script, the very premise of mutual assured self-destruction was so bonkers that it couldn't not be a comedy. Kubrick's direction is completely on point, getting across the absurdity of the dangers presented by the Cold War. It is both terrifying and wickedly funny. The details are also mesmerising, and it's clear to see the incredible research that Kubrick did on all of his pictures on screen. The black and white cinematography is stunning, and Ken Adams' set designs are iconic and completely unforgettable. The performances are on another level. George C. Scott gives a powerhouse performance as General Buck Turgidson, a loud-mouthed, proud idiot who seems to stand by the idea of nuclear war being okay as long as the good guy wins. He's so believable, and politicians like him seem to pop up across the world every couple of years. Sterling Hayden gives one of the great unhinged performances as the paranoid general who sends his men off to bomb Russia to stop Russia polluting America's precious bodily fluids. He's terrifying and utterly believable. Having Western character actor Slim Pickens as the head of a nuclear aircraft is brilliantly effective at showing how nonsense a gung-ho attitude to war is. And Peter Sellers gives not one, not two, but three astonishing performances. All three performances work in three completely different comedic ways, and every time I watch it, I change which one's my favourite. It's quite an astonishing achievement. It's still relevant, it's still amazingly funny. Dr. Strangelove is a masterpiece. Right, so counting down the top 10. In a number 10, Blood and Black Lace. In a number 9, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. In a number 8, Top Cappy. In a number 7, Goldfinger. In a number 6, Pale Flower. In a number 5, Zulu. In a number 4, A Fistful of Dollars. In a number 3, Woman in the Dunes. In a number 2, Mary Poppins. And in a number 1, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Well, that was my top 10 films of 1964. What are your top 10 films of 1964? Cheers.